What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. It is your host, Trent James. And before I get into the topic of today's video, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's been watching my videos the last 3 weeks or so. As I stated in a prior video, this channel's been dead for about a year and a half. I'm just kind of sort of starting to revive it a little bit by doing some quasi-consistent uploads. I'm going to try to keep that going for everybody. Thank you to the new subscribers that I've gotten the last few weeks. There's about 100 new subscribers so far. So thank you on that. And thank you to everybody that's been reaching out to me, sending me emails, DMs, text messages, phone calls, whatever, just sharing your stories with me. Also, a lot of additional information regarding these law enforcement entities, specifically or especially in Mendocino County, and other things involving corruption, lies, and crimes that are going on. Please continue to do so. The best way to get a hold of me is by email, which I will link down in the description below. And if I don't get back to you right away, I will do my best to do so in a timely manner. There's just a lot of information to sift through at this point, but thank you, and please keep that up. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. So my last two videos were about Deputy Alex Tong with the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office in the northern part of California, the agency that I used to be a deputy at, and I used to work with that guy as well. And his arrest on January 12th, just a few days ago, 4 days ago, where he beat up his girlfriend and was arrested and booked in the Mendocino County Jail in Ukiah. And I also showed you guys an article that was written by a journalist in Ukiah, in Mendocino County, that had a couple of statements in there, one of which was from the current sheriff there, Matt Kendall, the Ukiah Police Department Chief, Cedric Crook, whose agency facilitated the arrest of Deputy Alex Tong because he lived in their jurisdiction, and also the captain of the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office, Quincy Cromer. And I'm going to bring this up again because this is important when it comes to the topic of today's video. In that article, if you recall, Sheriff Matt Kendall said, I can't talk about the incident or the arrest surrounding Deputy Alex Tong because of personnel policies, right? Zero transparency whatsoever. He only made even that brief, small comments because he was asked about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said anything to the public. Then you have Chief Cedric Crook, who said we have responded to multiple disturbances involving Deputy Alex Tong in the past, admitting right there, liability 100%, meaning he knew about these domestic violence incidents and nobody was doing anything about it. They allowed him to continue operating as a patrol officer, a patrol deputy there with a badge and a gun. They knew that he had mental health issues due to things that he had experienced on the street. They allowed him to keep working. He had been sent to one of those retreats before that cops go to. I've been, asked to go to one as well. And I think that he did go to one. So they already knew that he had problems. And disturbances with domestic violence, they allowed him to work. You have Captain Quincy Cromer stating in that same article that before this incident, Deputy Alex Tong was a hell of a cop, right? Talking up and giving props, talking positively about a guy that had just beat up his girlfriend, a woman beater. And the Captain Quincy Cromer is basically defending this guy in that element by stating that he was a hell of a cop when he wasn't. He was not a hell of a cop. But that is not a good look. You should not be saying anything positive about this guy, especially his time on the street, which he generated numerous complaints for his bad attitude and disrespect and a whole host of other things. But this is all important, everybody, to get into the topic of today's video when it comes to complete lack of transparency on behalf of the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office. Now, the sheriff there, Matt Kendall, as I stated in my other videos, it's all about protecting their reputation. And the reason why nobody is going to know about this guy that I'm going to talk about right now, or very few, is because Matt Kendall did the best that he could to try to conceal it from the public. You can Google this guy's name. He's not going to be in any of these articles. None of these other journalists that write in Mendocino County and Ukiah have covered this at all, because they probably don't know about it. They covered Deputy Alex Tong. That was blasted everywhere, even though they had no information in their articles. It was very sad and pathetic and hilarious to me. But nobody said anything about this guy. In fact, I can't even find his picture where he was sworn in on the Mendocino County Sheriff's Facebook page, where they post photographs of everybody that gets sworn in as a brand new deputy there. And this guy that I'm going to talk about is not on there, which leads me to believe that they removed him in case somebody were to Google his name and he would have popped up there in uniform and like, oh shit, this guy's a cop, you know? But that's not, you can't do that anymore because that was taken down. So the subject of today's video, who is no longer a deputy with the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office, this incident occurred November 13th at about 3 o'clock in the morning, so about 2 months ago. However, he was not booked into Mendocino County Jail until December 22nd, about 3 days before Christmas. This last Christmas, a little less than a month ago, he was almost automatically terminated from the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office because he had worked there for, I believe, a little less than a year, meaning he was still a probationary employee, and you can be terminated pretty much without cause as a probationary employee. And I brought this booking information up briefly in my secondary video that I did on Deputy Alex Tong. But let's go ahead and get into it a little bit more here. This guy right here, Eduardo Escareno Dilla. This guy was a deputy with the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office. Here is another photograph of him. And then I will show you the booking information that I provided in my other video. So this is it right here. The Eduardo Escareno Dilla from Covelo. And this is what his booking charge was: intimate touching against the will of the victim. And he was booked and released immediately December 22nd, 2024. Okay. So what happened with this guy? Okay, so he got hired with the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office a little before Christmas of 2023. And he's from Covelo. Okay, I actually know who this guy is because he had reached out to me a couple times with questions, or interacted with him in the law enforcement capacity when I was a resident deputy in Covelo. So I'm not friends with the guy or anything, but I do know who he is. So what happens when you're a new deputy in Mendocino County, especially if you're from out of the area, because it's just a vast county and you're going to be a brand new guy there, right? So you're going to have to probably work in the Ukiah area, the coastal area, Fort Bragg and all that, Willits. And so since this guy's from Covelo, he's going to have to commute an hour and a half to Ukiah, hour and a half or whatever to the coast, or 45 minutes to Willits if he has to work in these areas. So traditionally what will happen is the sheriff or the captain will reach out, countywide email. Anybody knows of anybody that has a room for rent? Please let us know because we have a new hire and he's going to need a place while he's going through the training stages or, whatever the case is. So Eduardo, or Pal Eduardo, was lucky enough that somebody was looking for a renter. And this individual, normal person, she has a very good job, comes from a respectable family, and she figured that this guy he was trustworthy. She's like, he's a cop. He went through a background check, psychological evaluation. It's like a whole separate video on those processes I can get into if you guys want to know more about those there. Anyway, rents a room to this guy. Never met him before. She also has another roommate that's a female as well. And both of them didn't know this guy. It was just like, looked at him as another renter, right? Helping them pay the mortgage or the rent overall at this house in the Willits area. So as months went on, it was just completely platonic. They had brief conversations in passing, but basically they were just roommates, right? They were all doing their own thing. She has a good job. She works. She does her thing. He was off working nights, right? So he was asleep during the day, working at night. So very minimal interaction. Okay. But his behavior started to change right up until the incident. Started to become late on rent, acting weird, getting drunk fairly often there in his room and at home. Up at nighttime on his days off. And on November 13th, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, the female victim was asleep in her bed. She was woken up by the feel of cold fingers near her crotch area as Eduardo was just about to penetrate her. I'm just telling you the facts. This is what happened. She wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning. When she feels that, she's like, what the fuck is going on? And she hears a loud thump at the foot of her bed because Eduardo had dropped down, tried to conceal himself, try to hide underneath her bed, which obviously didn't work out. She gets up, sees him there. He starts apologizing to her. No excuse for why he was doing what he was doing or why he was in her room. She immediately calls 911, which is going to go to the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office because her residence is in their jurisdiction. And approximately 1 fucking hour later is when they finally arrived. And per their instruction, She meets them outside. Her roommate, female roommate, was home as well, did not witness the feeling up incident, of course, because everybody was asleep. But when right before she went outside, she did see Eduardo in the female victim's room as well and did hear him apologizing and that sort of a thing. So they go outside. Female victim provides the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office deputies with a statement. She was then instructed to go to Ukiah, to the sheriff's office down there, and meet with detectives and provide them a statement. At the time, law enforcement did not go in due to a conflict in the residence to apprehend Eduardo or obtain a statement right then and there on scene. And they were instructed to get a warrant instead. And he was not coming out anyway because he had subsequently, I guess, passed out later due to being intoxicated. So they get a warrant later, go back in, question him. He is not arrested and taken to jail that night. The female victim is issued an emergency protective order and move out order against him to where he is not able to talk to her, text her, call her, contact her in any regard, even via third party. And he had to move out from the residence pretty much immediately, which he did. Finally got all of his stuff out about 2 weeks after that. I believe the roommate was on that as well due to fear of retaliation for this incident occurring. This is a copy of the restraining order. Right here, this actually wasn't the first one that was drafted. This is a temporary restraining order that the victim obtained later, which was good until a subsequent court hearing where a judge determines if it's going to be made permanent or not. But the protected person, which is the victim right here, the address where it occurred, and the restrained person, Eduardo Escareno. Additional protected person is going to be the roommate, and the expiration date, which was 12/9 at the other hearing to see if this was going to be made permanent or not. This was filed, it's November 20th. So after this, she obtains that emergency protective order and then goes back home, tries to deal with the aftermath of this, the trauma, the stress, and everything that's going to be coming along with that. I can't even imagine. You have a cop breaking into your room in the middle of the night and trying to feel you up while you're asleep, being drunk or not, is insane, especially when you don't have that kind of relationship with that individual. So as I stated, he did not get arrested. She obtains a temporary restraining order on December 9th. They go in for that hearing, and of course he tries to fight it with his attorney that he already has. And then subsequently, he gets booked on December 22nd in jail there in Ukiah for this crime that I provided you guys the booking information. That tells me that the district attorney's office reviewed the case, sent him a letter or called him and said, hey, you have to book yourself in, but it's going to be an automatic release. And typically that's done as, in this case, I would imagine it's a CYA to show that they actually did something about this, right? Like, hey, we actually told this guy to go book himself in, so it's all official, even though he's not staying in jail for any period of time. It's just a book and release, right? And then on December 27th is when he had his arraignment date. So a little over a couple of weeks ago, he had his arraignment date. They read you what you're being charged with, and then you enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. He pled not guilty in this case, in which case it's going to be moving forward to preliminary hearing. I think it's a little later this month or at the beginning of next month, very soon. So Eduardo already has representation that he obtained through the county, I believe, because he's a county employee. This victim, female victim of this crime, as of right now, is going to have to retain her own counsel and pay for it out of pocket as the victim right now because he's pleading not guilty. So he was automatically fired pretty much right away. Like I said, he's a probationary employee. You don't need cause. So the sheriff's office and the sheriff, Matt Kendall, determined that this crime did occur through the courses of their investigation. This was done in-house too, which is also really weird. Like his own department investigated him. Typically that's done by an outside entity, another agency, another investigator out of county, but they decided to keep it in-house for whatever reason. Found that, there was enough information to fire him. They had collected his cell phone as evidence. So maybe they found something in there, but he was fired right away. This girl, there's an entity called Victim Witness in Ukiah in the Mendocino County Courthouse, and they are supposed to assist victims in navigating this entire system. All right. They're supposed to help you with resources and information on how to obtain attorneys, how to fill out and file restraining orders. They're supposed to notify you of certain dates, court dates, if things get changed. They're supposed to keep you up to date if your suspect gets arrested, gets released. They're supposed to notify you of a whole wide variety of things. So far, that has not happened at all. This person has basically not been able to get in contact with victim witness, period, for a long time. After something occurred, victim witness finally reached out to the female victim here. And it was very interesting. After one of these court dates, they provided a very interesting statement to her, victim witness. Loose quotes here. Aside from him doing what he did when he was drunk, he seems like a nice guy. Victim witness, you dropped the ball on that, even worse than Quincy Cromer, the captain there, did, saying that Alex Tong, the domestic violence abuser, has been a hell of a good cop. You need to rethink what you're saying here, everybody. This is absolutely insane and completely unacceptable. This poor girl's having to do everything herself. She had extreme challenges and difficulties, to my understanding, figuring out how to do this restraining order process, not knowing what's going on in court. She had absolutely no idea that this guy even got booked in and released. She's had no correspondence with anybody at the sheriff's office, aside from her initial statement that she provided to law enforcement. Complete ghost town. When this is one of Matt Kendall's own guys that he conveniently made sure that nobody knew about any of this. Nobody knows about this. None of these journalists that write there, they didn't write about any of this. They're not able to find out any of this information. Nobody knows anything about this. This is top secret, and it's because Matt Kendall can only handle so much with this department, right? So much with his guys, so much when it comes to these guys beating their girlfriends, getting in investigations for sexual harassment, doing this case right here, and just a whole wide variety of things, right? That just reflects so poorly on them. So they're trying to, buffer these things when they can, and make sure that they have minimal collateral damage when it comes to these things, because it's not going to look very good, right? You have Eduardo here who's feeling up a girl that's a deputy in the middle of the night. Then you have Deputy Alex Tong beating his girlfriend, getting arrested. Then you have Rich Van Buren off duty right now, the sergeant there that works in Ukiah, for sexually harassing several women, touching, feeling, saying very sexual things to them. You have another cop deputy that works in Ukiah area right now that's also off in an investigation right now for hooking up with girls while on duty, being late to a call because of it. Maybe we're going to see what happens with those two, but there's only so much that he's going to be able to combat here, right? And there's going to be devil's advocates in the community. They're like, Trent, this isn't Matt Kendall's fault. He doesn't control these guys. You're wrong. Okay. Because anybody that's going to say that, you've never worked at that department before. All right. And first of all, if he's not to blame at all, Matt Kendall should be the first person on the front line saying, this is what my guys did. This is what my guy did. He's been arrested. He's been fired. Unacceptable. This is how I will treat these cases from now on, community, as your sheriff and elected official. Unacceptable. I'm going to go talk to Dave Eister and make sure he gets prosecuted to the full extent of the law, even though that's going to be the district attorney's decision. But I'm going to make sure that this happens as a precedent. And Matt Kendall didn't say that this guy got this case doesn't exist right now, right? In a lot of people's eyes. Like, it just, nobody knows about it. So he's not doing that. Judd Grady, the sheriff in Florida, he does that. He'll have a picture of his prior employee. This guy used to work for me, doesn't anymore. This is what he did. He's been arrested. That's what should be getting done. Okay. And also, Matt Kendall is at fault because domestic violence guy Alex Tong, he let that guy go on multiple instances that he knew about. Even police chief Cedric Crook admitted to multiple disturbances, let him go, gave him paid time off for stress leave on a domestic incident that occurred in September of last year, just ignoring all these signs when Alex should have been pulled from the road. So he's letting these guys slide, letting them off, trying to cover up the fact that these things are even occurring. So no, is Matt Kendall like in their shoes making them do these actions? No, but he's enabling and facilitating a lot of the problem when he should be nipping it in the bud and dealing with it before it starts. Okay. And their background checks, I don't know if this guy's still doing it. His name is Zohar Zaid. He was in charge of professional standards there in Ukiah when I was there doing background checks. Okay. And this guy, I don't even think he should be allowed to be in charge of making fries at McDonald's because members of the public are going to be eating that food. That's why. That's how bad this guy is. He worked in the jail before he started doing background checks. And he got up to being a sergeant in the jail. He illegally tased two people on two separate incidents, one of which got him demoted because he tased somebody that was restrained with handcuffs and sitting down, and then did it again later. And then he got a promotion to professional standards. So that guy, Zohar, was in charge of background checks for these guys. I don't know if he did Eduardo's or what, but you have somebody like that that's reviewing this information and calling people and drafting a document to be sent to the undersheriff and subsequently the sheriff to say, like, hey, this is my recommendation. This is what I discovered. Ultimately, it's the undersheriff and the sheriff's call, but they're going to pretty much go off of whatever the recommendation is for that. So that's like that's a reason why a lot of these guys are slipping through the cracks there at the SO, at the sheriff's office, because of their background process. It's complete garbage. Zohar should have been fired a long time ago when he violated more than one person's civil rights, illegal use of force, and all that kind of stuff. But he wasn't. He wasn't. He got put in charge of looking into people who were going to be cops on the street when he never was one himself. He couldn't even cut it in the jail. Just completely unacceptable. We're going to see what happens with this case with Eduardo and see how that proceeds. I'll show you guys the document that shows the next court dates here. So this is the Superior Court of Mendocino County in California court docket. This was issued at the completion of the last court hearing, I believe, where it shows Eduardo Escareno right here. He was present in court on the date 12/27, which was his arraignment date. See right here, arraignment. And it's continued to January 22nd in courtroom A. And this is a secondary court date for January 3rd as well. Additional notes, he has to comply with the civil restraining order in place where he cannot talk to, harass, annoy, text, third party or anything like that, go by this person's house of the victim right here. This is messed up. I blocked out her first name, but her last name, they put Dilla, which is the same as his right here. So they messed up her last name and put his last name, which is kind of like a punch to the gut, in my opinion. You have to look at that as a victim of being battered sexually. I mean, have some guy feeling you up like that. And if she had not woken up like right when she did, he would have gone further with that, right? I don't even know what to say anymore. This is absolutely insane. Anybody defending this type of behavior in Mendocino County, you need to have your head examined. Any cops that work for the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office or Ukiah PD or whatever, defending any of these guys, you should be fired immediately. Just as well as I do, when I worked there, I heard all of you guys bitching and complaining about how fucked up those places are, how corrupt they are, how much you hated all of your bosses. And thankfully, a lot of the bad bosses have left, right? Luis Espinosa's finally gone, thank God, on stress leave, which means he cheated on his wife, got caught, and he got extra stressed out and had to take time off. And now he's not coming back. He was the same guy that was making fun of guys for going off on stress leave. Lieutenant JD Comer's gone, thank God. I heard the guy that got beat up in high school, Lieutenant Andrew Porter, I heard that he's retiring in 2 months in March. I pray that is going to be true because that guy is a pariah. He is a toxin within that department. And he is a whole nother felony too, and got away with it. So anybody defending any of these guys, you are insane. And this is completely unacceptable. And there's so many things that are still going on there that I haven't even addressed yet. But I'm getting more information now as a part-time journalist. And I'm going to be looking into it. And I'm going to be doing more videos because even though I have my own life in LA now and I'm doing I'm in the entertainment industry and doing my own thing, after seeing and hearing some of this stuff, I feel that, again, it's my duty. I'm not getting paid for this shit. to give you guys the information because you're not getting it, especially with this. I saw this case and I'm like, dude, there's no way. There's no way. They need to be made aware. So that's going to be it for today's video. And I will definitely see you guys in the next one. Take care.